Cooper Hill, St. George, Grenada. You know, we often wonder who those people were. We have many names in Grenada, and many of us, we do not know who those people were. Some people say Cooper's Hill. Well, I have to talk to my good friend, Dr. John Angus Martin, who will clarify some of these names for me. Cooper Hill. Cooper Hill. Well, I returned to Cooper Hill. By the way, I revisit some of these stories because for some reason they disappear from Facebook. Somebody told me I should put them on YouTube also. But I have to put stories there so my grandchildren will know the life I lived. So a little about Cooper Hill. So I returned to Cooper Hill with its cobbled stones. Can you imagine if you have to get these river stones, the cobblestones, and pave those onto your yard, you know, how much it will cost today? But yes, you have the cobblestones, many of the alleys in Grenada, cobblestones. So Cooper Hill, with the cobblestones, as if set in place by those who constructed the ancient pyramids. Cooper Hill, where Grenadians who don't know how to mako, well, you walk up the hill, you get in ample practice in makoing. Go to the top of the hill and peep, but you might even see a fish or two jumping in the water near the fire station. Don't peep too hard, eh? You might see somebody horning you or your partner. And one can observe the firemen hard at work playing dominoes. Yes, my brother, at Cooper Hill, why, it did not need a fancy watch back in time, because the church clocks were staring right at you from across the pond, the water on the GRENADA. And for those who could not see the church clock, well, we had good souls, like Mr. Teddy Griffith used to go and ring the church bell to let us know it was noon. Of course, when there were funerals also, before the Catholic Church got those types of bells that automatically rang. Well, back in those times, we didn't have the computers and the televisions. Many of us were without that. So the women used to look at, listen to the radio, and a favorite listen to the soap opera. One was None So Blind. And they listened, and they had to make sure they had food prepared for the youngsters on the midday school break. You see, back then, 12 o'clock, we let out from school, they let us out. And there were guys who had to go all the way from Canashill, in the heart of St. George's. They used to walk all the way to Belmont and come back and reach for 1 o'clock. And if they were late, boy, it was blows, you can't be late. So the woman used to take a little time out to look at the shows, not to look at, of course, but listen to None So Blind while they prepared the food for the youngsters. Sometimes the burning pot pulled them away from the contagious radio episode. Well, this is how some of the women used to really spend their time in the morning, you know, the neighbors and so on, and they were really caught up in these shows. Just the way today people are caught up in different things. Now, Cooper Hill, the place, a doctor, I ain't gonna call his name, a certain doctor, well, he got so drunk. You know, he made it into a road. Now look at that hill. The man drove his car down that hill. He made it into a road. He made a shortcut through the stony track. And people heard that bang, bang, bang coming down the hill, boy. And they wondered if another Hurricane Janet had struck. But it was only the doctor driving down his new road. You see what rum could do? And back then we had class coat and strong rum, make it do all kind of crazy things. Now, Cooper Hill, and I have to say a little about this. Cooper Hill was a place where Prime Minister Eric Gary used to send the travel workers to clean the bush between the cobblestones. You see, bush used to grow there. So Uncle Gary was one, he loved beautification of the place and so on. He saw it near the botanical gardens, the roundabout and all that stuff. He loved to see that. So he used to send what was called the travel workers. And Gary never used to call them travel workers, especially those who worked on the road. Dignified the name, road engineers. He used to send them to clean the bush. And what do you think they did? They ate and they all talk like any true Grenadian. Yeah. And by the time they reached halfway up the hill, the grass was already growing between the stones with Mr. R.C.P. Moore, who became a Speaker of the House. And he was a real Speaker of the House, Well, dig into that. So, by the time they reached halfway up, the grass started to grow at the bottom. And they were ready to start all over again from the bottom. And the government was ready to pay again, because one of the reasons was to keep them occupied. So the people knew how to beat the system. You think Grenadians stupid? Why, you will forget it. And Cooper Hill. Boy, you can't talk about Cooper Hill and leave out the great Junior the Visigoth. Every time I go to Grenada, I have to go and visit my old friend from Cooper Hill, Junior Tato's the Visigoth. Give me all those old stories. He used to sit under the big mango tree there. There's a big tin mango tree. And the fellows on Cooper Hill, boy, we used to kill that mango. And I used to help myself too, I used to really help myself with that tin mango. Sometimes in the night, them guys gone to Empire Cinema. They went there to see movies, hoping when they go up the hill, walk up the hill, they will find some mangoes under the tree. Boy, I clean up them already. I cleaned that up already. They used to get vexed with me. Yeah, they call me the Western cowboy in the tongue, running all the mango down. I remember that. So yes, Tato's a Visigoth. He used to sit under the mango tree. Boy, until the spot got as smooth as a bowlie. Constant sitting there. And yes, I remember the Visigoth acting westerns under the mango tree. And in the western, he was the sole actor, He was the crook, the head crook, the small crook, and other crooks. And he was a star too. And when somebody told him, boy, look at tequila, and he take out his gun to shoot tequila. You see, back then we had the toy guns, He shooting up tequila. Tequila, the liquor. Yes, Cooper Hill and the cussing. Well, you see what Facebook and social media did was to bring the cussing to the wall. But cussing is as Grenada as mace. Yes. I saw a guy one time, he was at GNP, and he was cussing a Grenadian woman who was a Garyite. Boy, the man take down his pants and show the woman with the sun don't shine, I say, what the hell? You saw the cussing used to take a lot of forms. And when women started to cuss, boy, sometimes we used to have to duck, words, bad words, we call it sailor words. Bad words was so. And we got to know a lot of things, Just as some people listen on Facebook to what people are saying about other people. They pretend not to hear some of them, but they're storing it in their mind in case they get vexed with that person one day. So they're glad some of them, when people cussing others on social media, because they learn a lot about, sometimes it's not true even, but they store it in their minds and would repeat it if they get vexed with that person. So yes, cussing didn't start yesterday. No, it didn't. So we got to know a lot of things. Right on Cooper Hill there. We got to know all the women who stole peas in the market. We got to know the man, a big man who was still pee in bed, or who getting on. We got to know so much. Who made fears with the sailor from the man of war. See, we used to have a lot of these man of war coming into Grenada, battleships. Some of us used to like to go and see the engine room and the various parts, yes, back in those times. Well, there's a saying, words is a win. Don't believe that. Don't believe that, not for one moment. Words could hurt. Somebody tell you something, cuss you and put two bad words in your tail when you're 5 years old. When you're 90, you'll remember that. Stick in the mind. Those 4-letter words that they used to use, boy, those words could have knocked down Satan himself. You know, God made Cooper Hill. God made Cooper Hill so that Grenadians could exercise. You see, some of us, we don't want to exercise. And today, when so many people are driving cars up and down, no time to take a walk. That is why, probably a reason why a lot of diabetes all over the place. You got to walk, get up and walk, man. God made Cooper Hill so you could walk, exercise, go up the hill, take a nice walk up there, if you are able. Remember that, if you are able. For if you exercise too hard, and you have heart problems, for instance, you could end up in another hill, This one is called Cemetery Hill. And you don't want that to happen to you. You could not eat biscuit and cheese, and macaroni and all this food that see people are indulging in these days, I find a lot of people don't want to cook, They don't want to cook the traditional foods that we're accustomed to. They want all these food that come from away. We say away. They prefer that. But to walk up Cooper Hill, it called for stamina. Stamina derived from a proper diet of yam, dasheen, saltfish, sea moss, mobby, ginger beer. Food to strengthen the sinews, to strengthen the muscles. And you could roast a saltfish, a saltfish on a coal pot. Back then, this coal pot we had these fancy stoves and so on. And you throw some sweet oil. Well, the sweet oil is another name for olive oil. Grandchildren, you're listening? We used to call sweet oil, olive oil, we used to call sweet oil. But after you had all of that, yam and stuff like that, the foods, you're ready to climb Cooper Hill with ease and in style. Cooper Hill was the location where a man, when he came back from Cuba, and he found a refuge after confronting the Laja Bless, a female devil. Well, in our folklore, I often emphasize, people look down on our folklore, our myth. But when you read Greek mythology and Roman mythology, you read about Hercules and Atlas and Medusa the Gorgon, which it sounds like stupidness, but we study it in literature. But our Legaru and Najables and Sukunyo and Mama Maladi and Mama Glow and all that stuff, we think is nonsense, takes a back seat. But anyway, a little on that, So, Daddy just came back from Cuba, right? And he confronted a female devil, Elijah Bless. And when he lit the cigarette, as the story goes, well, boy, when he saw the cow foot, you see Elijah Bless, one human foot and a cow foot. When he saw the cow foot, boy, he take off with such a speed, it was said, he break a wind and kill about 5 of Miss Cynthia's chicken. Well, some people say 5, some people say 3. I wasn't there. Mr. Ogilvy, well, he had a nice mango tree near Cooper Hill. But I always say, Mr. Rosita's mango, that was sweeter. You know, boy, I have so much respect for that mango tree. Sometimes I used to want to cry when people who didn't think much of that mango, that tin mango, they call it knockabout mango because it was everywhere you find the tin mango. But I have respect for that mango, boy. That good mango too. So I remember a guy, a fella, where he used to pretend that he did not want to pick up the mango. So Miss Teresita do for him because she knew he used to pick up the mango. He used to pretend that he and she didn't have a good relationship. So he got up one morning at around 4 o'clock, 4 day morning we call it, thinking that Miss Teresita was asleep. Or as soon as he picked up the first one, the window of our Janet house opened and she poked her head out, put her head out. You know, the boy put on the mango and pretending he was tying his shoelace. He didn't want to see her. Her noticing him pick up the mango, the tin mango. Another thing about Cooper Hill, you see the hill there? Boy, sometimes when the rain fell, the heavy downpour, the tropical downpour during the rainy season, when the showers fell and water started to rush down Cooper Hill, we little boys, we waited until it subsided a bit. And we used to make these small wooden boats, sometimes coconut boats, and sail them down or at the bottom of the hill in the drain there. And then the rain flies, boy. You know, when I see rain flies in Grenada, it brings back so much memories back in time. We should chase the rain flies, you know. They used to come in the house and dance around the kerosene lamp, the rain flies. Yes, they circle the kerosene lamps. So many of them used to come out. Have you ever seen the rain flies? Now, those kerosene lamps, who remember the kerosene lamps? And on the shade of the lamps, used to have the words, home, sweet home. Such a nice, comforting feeling, eh? You see, we were poor. We didn't have much. But we had comforting words to make us happy. It wasn't like doggy dog as we see today. No. And of course, Cooper Hill, where we used to bus shortcut to Maricho Pasture and Park Lane. And there we used to feast on damsel and suck governor plums. When last you saw the damsel and the governor plums? Yes. We had a nice time. So Cooper Hill is special, eh? Very, very much so. It is special, just as other places in Grenada, special places all over. The lands is the lands, and it's a special place, you know. I used to go up in Snell Hall. Nice place. Yes, many special places in the Isle of Spice. Yes, boy. And of course, Monk Pandy. Some people probably are tired of hearing me talk about Monk Pandy, but it is special. And every time I go to Grenada, this is 2025, and I've already gone there twice for this year, I go to Monk Pandy and thank the Lord for saving my life. And I always remember, as many of you know, because you have heard the poem, you have heard the poetry, I always remember that old man called Mr. Maricho, who used to look at me as I ran on the sand of Pandy Beach, and he used to tell me, God bless. He's dead, yes, but his wonderful words still ring sweet in my ears. So I say to you today, family and friends, wherever you are, Trinidad, Canada, America, England, wherever you are, God bless you. We used to say that regular in Grenada, and I'm sure it still be said, yes. God bless. You feel like taking a little walk up Cooper Hill? Eh? You must try it. Try it. Anthony Wendell de Riggs.